begin? Okay, today's daf is daf Chaf Hey, and we will be starting from daf Chaf Dalet Amud Sheni on the Mishnah. Let's begin. The Mishnah says, Masa, there was a story. Shabo Shnaim, two people came, and they came to the witness. They came to the Bezdin, and the Bezdin was Rabbi Gamliel. Va'amru, and they said, Nuhu Shacharis Bamizrach. We saw the moon. The first shot in Rashi was we saw the old moon in the Mizrach, in the east, right? Like what you in the morning as sunrise, we saw the old moon. We saw the old moon. We're just going to wait for a. Hi, Lewis. We just began. So we just hi Shlomo. So we just began the Mishnah. There was two people that came to Bezdin. They say we saw the old moon in the east as sunrise, like the picture that you took today, Steve. They saw the old moon. That night, they're saying, Ba'arvis b'ma'ariv. And that afternoon, we saw the new moon and the west. In other words, it got dark, and we saw the new moon. So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri posit, and he said, Eidi Shekerhem. They must be liars. Why? Because we know that the moon has to disappear for 24 hours before you can see the new moon. So how is it possible you saw to see the old moon in the morning in the east? Rabbi Gamliel, who was in charge of the Bezdin, he accepted them as Adam. Now, this was a mistake. But if you learn it this way, Rashi is disturbed by learning it this way, because Rashi uses the expression, "V'libi noikfi." My heart tells me something's wrong with that pshat. How could Rabbi Gamliel make a mistake and assume they're good Adam when we know that for 24 hours the moon is covered? They couldn't have made that mistake. They saw the old moon in the east in the morning and the new moon in the west in the evening. So what Rashi says another pshat, and it's hard to astronomically understand this pshat, but they saw the new moon in the morning, the 30th day in the morning. They saw it, the new moon, okay? Let's say before sunrise, right before sunrise, they saw it, the new moon, and it's going along with the sun. And in the evening, they saw the new moon and the well in the west. They saw the evening. Now, according to Rashi, this is also according to Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel could not figure out that this is astronomically possible. Okay, in other words, he thought it was possible. I'm sorry, Rabbi Gamliel thought it was possible, and therefore he accepted them as true witnesses. So therefore, he accepted them as true witnesses. That was the case. And then another story happened. Two people came. They said, we saw the new moon on the 30th day. Okay, let's say they saw it on the 30th night. They saw the new moon. So everybody's waiting on the 31st night. On the 31st night, right, the following night, it wasn't seen. Rabbi Gamliel accepted them. So Amar Rab Doisa ben Hurkinus says, Eidi Shekerhem, they must be liars. How could you say testimony on a woman that gave birth? And tomorrow, the next day, you see her stomach between her teeth, that you could see she's pregnant. How is it possible that the Edom say we saw the new moon, and then the next night, it's a clear night, we don't see the new moon? So they must be liars. Now, Rabbi Yeshua, who is the second in charge of the Bezdin. In other words, Rabbi Gamliel is the president of the Bezdin, and Rabbi Yeshua, who is even smarter than Rabbi Gamliel, as we'll see later, he's smarter than Rabbi Gamliel, and he doesn't agree with what Rabbi Gamliel did. I see your opinion, Rabbi Daisa, and Rabbi Gamliel's wrong for declaring Rosh Chodesh when it shouldn't be Rosh Chodesh. It should be pushed off. That's what Rabbi Yeshua said. And it turned out this was Tishrei. So according to Rabbi Gamliel, the day earlier was Yom Kippur. The following day, according to Rabbi Yeshua, who felt Rabbi Gamliel was wrong, Rabbi Yeshua, the following day was going to keep Yom Kippur. He wasn't going to keep it the same day Rabbi Gamliel kept it. So Shalach Rabbi Gamliel. So Rabbi Gamliel sent him this message, probably during the Aseres Yimei Tshuva, and he said, Gozrani Alecha, I declare, Shetavi Esli, I want you to come to me on Yom Kippur, b'makelcha with your stick, u'v'mayisecha with your money. That means that you should come with your stick carry your stick on Yom Kippur and come with money, which is muktzah. According to the Yom Kippur, the way you count Yom Kippur, in other words, the day after that I counted Yom Kippur. I guess Rabbi Yeshua was planning to have a private holiday of Yom Kippur because he felt Rabbi Gamliel was wrong. So, but now the Rabbi Gamliel demanded that he go be mechal the Yom Kippur that he was planning to celebrate. Halach umotzoi Rabbi Kiva Meitzer. Rabbi Kiva found that Rabbi Yeshua was in stress. Amaloi, so Rabbi Kiva told him that don't be stressed out of it. You're not, just because you're violating your Yom Kippur, you're wrong for keeping your Yom Kippur. Shieshli lilmoit shekol masha asu Rabbi Gamliel asu. Anything that Rabbi Gamliel did, even though it turned out Rabbi Gamliel is astronomically wrong. You see, Rabbi Yeshua probably understood mathematically that Rabbi Gamliel is wrong for accepting the Eidim. So he had more than just one just saying that testimony was false. But according to Rabbi Yeshua's calculation, who he was a bigger chacham than Rabbi Gamliel, he said that Rabbi Gamliel is wrong. But Rabbi Kiva told him, whatever Rabbi Gamliel does is correct. The Torah says this is the holidays that you're going to declare them holidays. Now, oisam is without a vav, you notice right over here. So that means bein bismanim, bein shaloi bismanim. Whether you're going to declare it in the right time or whether you're going to declare it in the wrong time. In other words, you're going to push it off and you're going to decide not to accept Eidim. Or we're going to learn in the Gemara that even if you got the whole thing wrong, you accepted false Eidim or you miscalculated. Oisa means atem, like you call it Yantiv and I go along with it, says Hashem. Eli mayades el edi. I only have these holidays. In heaven, I'm not celebrating another holiday. So imagine that. We declare a holiday of Rosh Chodesh or whatever, we declare a holiday wrong, and it turns out all our holidays are wrong. So in heaven, they're following us, what we did on earth. So Rabbi Kiva sort of satisfied him, but Balai Eitzel Rav Doisa ben Hurkinus. Rabbi Yeshua came to Rav Doisa ben Hurkinus, and he also encouraged him to be Michal Yantiv. You know, he says, Amalai, so Rav Doisa ben Hurkinus said to him, you still have to listen to Rabbi Gamliel. If we're going to start taking to task the court system of Rabbi Gamliel, we'll have to reevaluate all the courts that existed from the time of Moshe till now, because there's always going to be somebody smarter than Bezdin, somebody who knows better than Bezdin, yet Bezdin is going to paskin differently. Shenema, how do you know? Moshe and Aaron and the 70 elders of the Jewish people. Now, the pasuk says the Gemara darshans v'lama loy nisparshu shmoisim shel zakenim. All these 70 people that lived in the time of Moshe were like Nevi'im, very holy people, and they're anonymous. Why didn't the Torah list all 70? Now that would have made the Torah longer, but the Torah did list you two of them. Eldad and Medad is listed in the Torah, so list me all the other 68. Why do we leave their names anonymous? They must have been very important to be part of Moshe's court during the time of the desert. Allow me to teach you. Any three that get together are like the court system of Moshe. In other words, they're like the court of Moshe. That because you're going to ask, is this person who's living now like Moshe? You'll say, no, he's not like Moshe. But perhaps he's like the 70 anonymous people. We don't know who they were. So you could always assume that maybe my generation, my Bezdin, was like those that existed in times of Moshe Rabbeinu, so to speak. So that's why it's like anonymous there. You should know that by you have to go according to the judges of your generation. So when he heard those two advice from Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Doisa, so Rabbi Yeshua gave up the challenge, and he wasn't not on makla. He took a stick and he took his money not in his pocket but in his hand to show everyone that he's being mechal the yontiv. And it's not enough sometimes to walk with your stick on Yom Kippur, because some people hold that there is no isser of carrying on Yom Kippur. We learned that in Yuma, but muktzah there is. So showing everybody he was carrying the money, that's even more of a demonstration that he's mechalel his Yom Kippur. He went to the Yavneh, Eitz Rabbi Gamliel. Obviously, this was after the destruction of the temple, so the Supreme Court was in this place called Yavneh. On the day that Yom Kippur fell out according to his calculation, Amad Rabbi Gamliel get up, and gave him a kiss on his head. Just like, you give a kiss to your student's head, like, a good Rebbe will kiss his student's head. He wanted to demonstrate that Rabbi Yeshua made himself to be as if he is underneath Rabbi Gamliel and that he's learning from Rabbi Gamliel. So Rabbi Gamliel, as a Rebbe, kissed him on the head. Amallah, he said, Boi b'shalom, go in peace, like we say on Chadaidi. Rebbe, I consider you, Rabbi Yeshua, my teacher, the Talmidei, and my student. Rebbe b'chachma, I agree that you're my teacher in intelligence. You are smarter than me. But Talmidei, but you're still my student. Shekibalto estevarai, that you accepted my words. It's a beautiful story. Tanya, we learned in a brisa. So the Gemara elaborates. Now, what was the story where they saw the new moon in the east and the new moon in the west that night? How is it the Adams that said that? Why are they considered true Adam? Is that possible? The Chachamim felt that they're Eidei Sheker. How could it be that the moon can orbit so fast, from moonrise to moonset will be so fast in about 12 hours? So he said, Kach mukubalani mibeis abi abba, I have a tradition, pa'amim shaba ba'arucha, sometimes the orbit around planet Earth is long, and sometimes the orbit is short. So you can see the picture over here. I have that normally it's the orbit around planet Earth is 29 and 6.5 hours. That's what they have it over here. But sometimes the orbit can be longer, 29 and 20 hours, something like that. And therefore, sometimes the moon is like faster around Earth, and sometimes it looks like it's slower around Earth. So when they saw it looked faster, according to Rabbi Gamliel, that was his tradition, that this is a astronomical possibility, and that's why he accepted them. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, back into the Gemara. My Tama de Rabbi. What is the reason of Rabbi? The Ksiv, Osi Yoreach Lamayadim Shemesh Yodem Avoy Shemesh Udim Yodem Avoy Yoreach La Yodem Avoy. And the pasuk in Tehillim hints at the sun is much easier to predict, but the moon, it's not so easy to predict the orbit of the moon, and therefore sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. So that's what this pasuk implies. Shemesh, only the sun, you can predict the setting of the sun, you can know it, but not the moon. Now the Gemara tells us a story. Rabbi Yechia, it was the 29th day of Elul. Okay. Okay, and it's the 29th day of El in the morning. Guess what? That night is Rosh Hashana. So Rosh Hashana is the time of the new, like the Rosh Chodesh. Chazia, he saw l'sihara, the old moon, the Havek Koi B'Tzafra. In the morning, you could see the old moon, like Steve saw this morning. The Esser V'Tisha was the 29th day of Elul. Now, important to note that they did not want to make Elul 30 days. Because then Shabbos and Yom Kippur would be next to each other. And they never want to have Shabbos and Yom Kippur next to each other because of a problem of how to bury people. They'll decompose. So they always want Yom Kippur separate from Shabbos during the time of the Talmud. So therefore, the problem is, if you see the old moon in the 29th day, you cannot be Mekadesh and make Rosh Hashanah that night. Because if you make Rosh Hashanah that night, people will say the whole business is phony. Because I just saw the old moon, like Steve saw it this morning. So you see the old moon, so it cannot be that the Bezdin knows what they're doing. So the Shakal Kala, he took a piece of sand, psakbe, and he threw it towards the moon. Amar, he said to the moon, L'urta, tonight is Rosh Hashanah, but we want to make you holy. We want to be Mekadosh T'chodesh, V'at Kayam Ta'ach, and you're still around. Zil Ikasei, go disappear. Apparently, the moon disappeared, and therefore, Amalei Rabbi Rabchia. Rabbi quickly said to Rabchia, Zil La'ain Tav, go to this place, Ain Tav, V'katche Li'archa, and make Kiddush HaChodesh, declare, daven your Rosh Hashanah by this place called Ain Tav, and then declare it the new moon, the Rosh Chodesh Tishrei that day. and tell me that you did what I told you to do. Shlach si simona, send me the sign that you did, followed my direction. David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. Send me the sign. David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. So others want to learn Pshat is that during the time of Rebbe, when the time of Mikadosh the Chodesh was slowly, I guess they were Mikadosh the Chodesh up until Rav's time, but during that time the Romans were around and they didn't want the Jewish to declare calendars. So it was done, everything was done in secret. So that's why he had to send them a sign that I was Mekadesh the Chodesh, and I'm telling you the sign, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. The David, the king of Israel, is alive and will be around. In other words, David is a reference to the moon, that just because the moon disappears, eventually it'll come back. And we believe that David, through the Mashiach, although he's not around, he will be coming back. That was the sign. And that's why we say by Kiddush Levana, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. So everything was dangerous that time. Therefore, they had to be Mekadosh Chodesh that day. But the point of the whole story is that you could not have had the old moon still around Rosh Hashanah night. If the old moon was around Rosh Hashanah night, and you're making it Rosh Hashanah, that the first day, it wouldn't be accepted by the people. People think the whole Beis Din is a joke. I see the old moon right there. So therefore, it was important to Rab Chia to talk to the moon and tell it to disappear, so that night everybody can make Rosh Chodesh. And in fact, they had to fake Eidim probably, because if the old moon disappeared in the morning, how would they Mekadosh the Chodesh at night without Eidim? So they had to fake Eidim, and we learned this before, that even you hire Eidim and they should tell you something, and we pretend that we go through the ceremony of accepting Eidim, and that's how we Mekadosh the Chodesh, even though we can know in our heart's heart they're saying the untruth. But if we need to do it, that's what we need to do. Very fascinating thing. Tan Rabbanim, rabbis taught. Pam achas nishkasher shmayim ba'av nearest to Muslim be'esrim tisha v'chodesh. On the 29th day, it's the 29th day. Let's say today is the 29th, I think, or tomorrow is the 29th day of the month. And the heavens look like that there's new moon there. Okay, here's a look at this. Look at the clouds. It forms the shape of a moon, and everybody thought, "Hey, we see the new moon." Because everybody said, "Okay, the 29th day is the Rosh Chodesh, so that we'll have a 28th day month, a 28th day month." And Bezin wanted to be Mekadosh. Rabbi Gamliel, Kach Mukublan and Meves of Yaba. I have a tradition from my grandparents. That it takes a rotation till you could see the new moon 29 and a half days, 2/3 of an hour, and 73 parts of an hour. So whatever that measurement is, it's so it cannot be that the 29th day is the new moon. You have to have at least the 29 and a half day passes, so the 30th day becomes the first day. So everybody was thinking that the 29th day is the first of the next month. Nobody listened to Rabbi Gamliel, or they were potentially not going to listen to him. The mother of this person, Ben Zaza, died. And Rabbi Gamliel made this eulogy that lasted hours and hours for this woman in order to shut the Beis Din down, so that they won't be, forced to take Eidim to make 29th day Rosh Chodesh. Not because this mother of Ben Zaza was such a righteous person that she needs Rabbi Gamliel to make this big hesped. This would notify everybody that Beis Din did not make this day Rosh Chodesh, because on Rosh Chodesh you're not allowed to do any eulogies, right? So therefore, by making a eulogy on that day, and everybody's going to talk about the great eulogy that Rabbi Gamliel did, everybody would know that day was not Rosh Chodesh. Olach Rabbi Akiva Meitzar. So Ibaylahu Mi Meitzar. Who was in stress? Rabbi Akiva Meitzar or Rabbi Yeshua Meitzar? Who was in stress? Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yeshua? So obviously, Tashma, like we explained in the Mishnah, the Tanya we learned in the Brisa. Holach Rabbi Akiva Matzoy Rabbi Yeshua Kshu Meitzar. Rabbi Akiva found Rabbi Yeshua was in stress. Amalai Rabbi Mipnei to Meitzar. So Rabbi Akiva, who's a student of Rabbi Yeshua, asked him, "Why are you so stressful?" Amalai, he said, "Akiva, I'm going to be Michal my Yom Kippur." Unbelievable. I'd rather be sick 12 months locked up in a hospital than I should violate my own Yom Kippur. Unbelievable. Amalei, it's unbelievable how they felt about Yom Kippur. I just want to push this aside, that this Mr. Mitgang, who I told you, who died at 102, actually fasted Yom Kippur, and his son was telling me that he wanted his father not to fast in Yom Kippur, and his father wouldn't hear of it. He said, all his lives that he's fasted at Yom Kippur, he's going to fast again, push himself through it.
Yep.
Amalei, Rabbi Tasheni Laima Lafanecha Davar Achashli Matani. So Rabbi Kiva wanted to put sense into Rabbi Yeshua's mind, and he says, permit me to say something that you taught us. Amalei Amor, say. Amalei. So Rabbi Kiva said, Harayu Oima Oisam Oisam Oisam. It says the word Oisam 3 times in the Parsha Ermar. Oisam 3 times, and it's without above. So we read it Atem. God says, you court Afilu Shaygigin, even if you make a mistake in your calculations, you get the astronomical calculations wrong, and you say it's Rosh Chodesh, I accept it. Atem Afilu Mezidim. Even if you get it on purpose, even if you know you're doing wrong and make it Rosh Chodesh, God says, I accept it. Atem you Afilu Mutin. If you don't know the calculations, but Adam fooled you into declaring Rosh Chodesh, like what happened here, Rabbi Gamliel got fooled, so then it's Rosh Chodesh. Belashon is exactly that language you told us. So if Rabbi Gamliel got fooled by Eidei Sheker, the pasuk says God goes along with it. Amalai, so Rabbi Yeshua said to Akiva, Nichamtani, Nichamtani, you comforted me, you comforted me. You comforted me that number one, I'm going to be Mechalo my Yom Kippur, and I'm going to keep the Yom Kippur of Rabbi Gamliel. I wasn't planning to keep the Yom Kippur of Rabbi Gamliel, but you're absolutely correct. I know he got it wrong mathematically, but he declared it anyway. He was fooled into it. That's what it is. Why didn't why the names anonymous in the Chumash? My rabbi, is he like Moshe and Aaron? Ploni Nadav Avihu. Is my rabbi like Nadav Avihu? Ploni, is my rabbi Elder Ameda? These was like Nevi'im. So obviously not. So maybe your rabbis like those anonymous names. So therefore, you could have respect your rabbi as if they're Moshe and Aaron. V'oimer, another pasuk says, V'yomer Shmuel am Hashem, Ashasus Moshe Aaron. Shmuel said to the people, God made Moshe and Aaron, and he did wonders to us. Vayishlach es Yerubal, and God sent us Nevi'im like Yerubal, Vesbedon, Vesyiftach. Shmuel, and me, I'm a Navi too. He's rebuking the people and he's telling them Musar. Okay, so Moshe, he listed off 6 people over here, Shmuel, in the history of the Jewish people. Yerubal Zeh Gidon. Yerubal is Gidon. Gidon was the shofet, the judge and the leader of the Jewish people during the time when Midian, he performed great miracles against the Midian. Why was he called Yerubal if his name is Gidon? She'asa Meriva Imbal. He disintegrated and debated or destroyed the Avodah Zarah of Baal, which was rampant at that time. Bedon Zeh Shimshon. This is Shimshon, who was the leader of the Jewish people, saving us from the Plishtim. Why is he called Bedon? He should be called Samson. He came from Dan. Yiftach, Kimashmoy, we all know who Yiftach was. He actually was a son of a Zaina, a harlot, of a whore. And he somehow became the shofet of the Jewish people, saving the people from Bnei Ammon. And we read Shoftim, you find out more about these people. But we have 6 people here: Moshe, Aaron, Shmuel, and Yerubal, Bedon, Yiftach, Shimshon, Gidon, and Yiftach. So we go to Amar Beis. Moshe and Aaron are the leaders, and Shmuel, Shmuel is in that group, like Moshe and Aaron, who can call God's names. The pasuk right now, in other words, Moshe and Aaron, Shmuel are considered the most heavyweight of the prophets because God spoke to them directly. You see, in one pasuk you compare Shmuel to Moshe and Aaron, so he's in that group. And the pasuk before equates the 3 lightweight prophets, so to speak, because the God didn't speak directly to them, like Shimshon, Gidon, and Yiftach. To teach you, Yerubal B'dairei, Gidon in his generation is Moshe B'dairei, is like Moshe in his generation. Bedon B'dairei, Samson in his generation, Aaron B'dairei, and it's like Aaron in his generation. Yiftach B'dairei, Yiftach in his generation, Shmuel B'dairei. L'lametra, this comes to teach you. Shafil Kal Shebekalim, even the lightweights. V'nismarna Parnas Al Tzibur, but through Siyata Deshmaya, he's now the leader of the community. Harehi Ka'abir Shaberim, he's like the strongest of the strong. That's the lesson over there. The reason why it calls Yiftach, Shamson, and Gidon is because if you learn Tanakh, they all had a fall. Like Shimshon fell with Delilah, and he had relations or whatever, and she cut his hair. She didn't have relations, but she cut his hair, and he lost his powers. And Yiftach also had an issue, and Gidon had an issue. So they called them Kal Shebekam. They're lighter weight leaders, but they're compared to the great leaders that we had, Shmuel, Moshe, and Aaron, to teach you that anytime there's a leader of the Jewish people, you have to consider them as the highest of the high. And the pasuk says, you're always supposed to go to the judges that are in your generation, not just to the leader, the judge that's in your lifetime. That is the judge. Does the pasuk think about that you'll go to a judge that is not in your lifetime? So what do you mean? You should go to the judge that in your lifetime. I can't go to a judge that lived 100 years before. So what is the pasuk telling you? You only could you should only try to accept the shofet in your generation. Another pasuk says something similar idea. It's not so smart to say the previous leaders; those were leaders, not the ones that we find today. This is an old problem where as you grow up, it's hard for you to accept the new leadership. When you start remembering the old leadership and you think the times were better then. It all has to do with the generation and who they are, and the generation has the right leaders for that time, and we have to accept that. And that's the lesson of this whole thing. The lesson of the whole thing also is that the smartest guy in the room is not always the smartest guy. We see that Rabbi Yeshua is the smartest person in the room, but the leader was Rabbi Gamliel. So he took his stick and money in his hand and was Machal Yom Kippur, Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Gamliel saw Rabbi Yeshua enter the room. He got up from his chair. Rosh gave him a kiss on his head. He told him, Rabbi Talmidei. Hello and peace unto you, my rabbi and my student, Rabbi Shematani Torah Barabin, that you taught me Torah in public. I learned a lot from you, Rabbi Yeshua. But you're my student. I decree something for you, and you accept it, and you keep it like a student of mine. Ashrei Hadar, it's great for this generation. Shagdolim, greater people, Nishmoim Lektanim. Listening to smaller people, that you, Rabbi Yeshua, greater than me, you're listening to me. Kal v'choyim katanim l'gedolim. If a small person should listen to the gedolim, kal v'choyim chiyuvahu. So the Gemara says, "What kal v'choyim?" Of course, it's obvious that a smaller person should listen to somebody smarter than them. Ella mitoich shagdolim nishmoim l'katanim. Because Gedolim listen to the smaller people, the Ketanim will say, if he's listening to the person, I certainly have to listen to this leader. And that's what Rabbi Gamliel was trying to tell him. I don't mind if you would privately have held Yom Kippur. I wouldn't have minded that. The problem is I needed you to come here to make a lesson that you're listening to me so that other people will listen to me. Because if you break away, people will be lax in listening to me, and I'll lose my leadership. So it was important for you to Michal Yantiv. And that was the greatness of Rabbi Yeshua, and this is a great story. The end of the story is, the bottom line is that Rabbi Gamliel made a couple of mistakes with Rabbi Yeshua, and then we learned, I think, in Brachas that they actually voted him out as the leader, and they brought in Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. They kicked him out. So that was
split, but I think they split it, right?
And they eventually brought him back, right? But this is probably maybe the first mistake that he made, and they accepted it. Let's do the Mishnah quickly. If the entire court saw the new moon, let's say it's the 30th day. It's the 30th day, and right before sunset, they saw the new moon. All right, and they could still, or nechru edim, or they investigated the edim. Then sunset happened, and they couldn't make the 30th day Rosh Chodesh. So the Mishnah says, then Rosh Chodesh has to be declared on the 31st day. The 30th day cannot be declared Rosh Chodesh at night, going backwards. Ra'ul Bezdin Mabad, another case, nothing to do with the previous case. Ra'ul Bezdin Mabad. If the court, remember, the court is the whole 70 people. They all saw it. They were all walking around the base of Mikdash, and they saw the new moon. Take two of the court, and they should say testimony in front of the other 68. The Yomru, and the leader says Mekudesh, and the people in the crowd will say Mekudesh, Mekudesh. Fine. What you see from this point is that usually in a civil and criminal case, if you're a witness, you cannot be a judge. And here they are witnesses, and they can turn into a judge, because it's more of a ceremonial thing that you need witnesses and a judge. So therefore, that's what it is, but not that we're trying to get to the truth, because like we're saying all the time, they actually knew the truth via astronomical calculations. But the Torah says, I want it to be done this way. That's why you do it this way. Ra'u shloisha, let's say you had 70, and the three of the greatest of them saw the new moon. So let's say the three greatest ones saw it. They really should be they should really be the judges. The Hein Bezdin, they're the top judges of the Bezdin. So then Yamdu Hashnayim, they should take two of them, and they'll be witnesses. And put another two next to the one of those three. In other words, you have three of the top judges saw the new moon. So you take the top guy, and he will be a judge, and the other two will be witnesses. And now this top guy cannot declare Rosh Chodesh because you need at least three. So you bring other two judges who are not witnesses and didn't see anything. They should join along to create a court. What this means is that although we find Bezdin could be a Yachid, but when it comes to Kiddush Chodesh, it can't be a Yachid. I mean, you need at least three. So now the Gemara says, why do we have to say two cases, that Bezdin saw it and the old Jewish people? If Bezdin saw it, that should be enough. Why do we have to repeat all the Jewish people saw? So the Gemara says, Itzrach, I need it. I would think that if the entire Jewish world saw the new moon, it's so blatant that it has to be that day Rosh Chodesh. And so even though the Bezdin did not get enough time to say Mekudesh, I would think it's automatically Mekudesh. And if Bezdin, you shouldn't make it a 30-day month. You should actually declare the 30th day as the first day, because everybody saw the new moon. Kamash Malan, since you didn't say Mekudesh, it doesn't matter. Even if the whole Jewish world saw the new moon, if the Bezdin did not say Mekudesh, it's not Mekudesh. What's the case of they investigated the Eidim? I mean, once Bezdin and the entire Jewish people saw it, so what's this extra case? Certainly that they didn't need time to investigate Eidim because it was so obvious. So Hachi Kamar, Inami, another case. Let's say Bezdin sat down, nobody saw the moon, and they started, let's say, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they started questioning the Eidim, and they started the whole process. And it got into night. They were questioning the Eidim back and forth, and then it's 6:30 at night, and they forgot to say Mekudesh. Harezem Uber, too bad. It's too late. You have to make the next day Rosh Chodesh. Since you already told me that if night passes, it's automatically, and you didn't say Mekudesh, it's automatically not Rosh Chodesh. So why do you have to talk to me that you started investigating the Eidim during the daytime? So the Gemara says, yes. Itzrach, Salkadai Techamin. I would have thought you're investigating the Eidim, let's say 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's as if you started the whole process earlier. And it's just the finishing touches is like at night. And you should make Kiddush at night because you really started it during the day, you're just finishing it up at night. And that works because a regular court, sometimes you start during the day, but you can finish at night. The Tanina Mamas done the Tanah we learned the Mishnah. Tanina Mamas done by Yom Begoimer Belayla, Hachanami Mekacha Belayla. By a civil case, you could start the court during the day and finish up at night. So I might think that the Chakiris of the Eidim is the start of the process. So you could finish up at night and make the previous day Rosh Chodesh. Kamash Malan, that cannot be done. The Heimachinami, why don't you say it's like Dine Mamamis, like regular civil cases that can be done during the day? Makra, the pasuk says, Ki Choik Yisrael Hu Mishpat Lekei Yaakov. Choik, the Rosh Chodesh is a choik, and choik is the completion of the din. Amos have a choik begmardin. The decree is by the finishing of the court, the Kakari Rachman Mishpat. And the Torah says it's like the beginning of the start of the trial. Ma Mishpat Yom. Everybody agrees the start of the trial is always by day. So by Rosh Chodesh, there's a Gzeres HaKosov, so to speak, that the completion of the trial, saying Mekudesh also has to be done during the day. That's also it has to be done during the day. That's why the Mishnah says, even if you started investigating the Eidim 5:30 in the afternoon and you really had the court open, and you just didn't get a chance to say Mekudesh, Mekudesh, it's too late, and it's too late, and you have to make the next day Rosh Chodesh. Okay.
Excellent. Excellent.
All right.
Excellent. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay.
Go ahead, bro.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Paul.